Big news, everybody. Hats are back in stock on sportingchancepod.com. Select t-shirts are $10 off and sticker packs are half off. Go get them while you can. And if you want a lurcher, head on over to Clover Creek Canine on Facebook and message our friend Sean O'Neill today. For your micro hawking and redtail supplies on the East Coast, visit mountainstatefalconrysupply.com. To get the tightest braided equipment on the market, visit midnightfalconry.com. And last but not least, to add a goshawk to your hunting arsenal, go on over to northmountaingoshawks.com today and put in your order for next year's hunting partner. Okay, everybody, real quick. So this week we have the president of the American Falconry Conservancy on, Laura. Next week, we've got the vice president of NAFA, Heath, on. You get to hear some top-notch crying and whining from me and Casey. So please enjoy. But just for a minute, we have a friend of the show, Brett Rees, on with special announcement for a drop that's happening today. Brett, take it away.
Ooh, thank you guys for having me on and let me promote this. Devil's Red Tail shirt is coming up based on a Harley bandana that I had. I think it's a pretty cool, iconic, just front chest shirt. Really rad. And the sale runs from today, Monday, November 24th through Sunday, December 7th. And it's a short turnaround, but those shirts should get out to you by Christmas. So that was the goal, is if it's a gift, to get it there to you by then. And yeah, dude, thanks again for having me on for it.
So the bandana was like super reminiscent of things that I've seen like at flea markets down here in the South over the years. Mm-hmm. I've seen some shirts that are that style too. Yeah, it'll be like some bootleg, like Hank Williams Jr. shirts or something.
Hell yeah.
There was one I used to see all the time that had Hank Jr. on it, and it said if the South would have won, we would have had it made.
Well,
but it just reminds me of that old school 90s flea market feel, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm always... I love to try and find old content like that and kind of repurpose it. Speaking of, that NAFA bootleg shirt that I did is, if you can deep cut it, it's also kind of based off of, some sort of a dupe thing that I found as well. But we don't have to get into that. It gets dark fast where I found that one. But yeah, dude. I mean, of course, Harley. I love their shirts because they have eagles all over them, generally speaking. And it's easy to kind of find those designs and just like kind of like be like, oh man, if I could just riff off this, it would be really cool. So I have that bandana personally, speaking of, bought it at a flea market for $10 a couple years ago, and have looked at it for years now and been like, I need to try and do something with this. So finally did.
That's awesome. I actually collect bandanas.
Uh-huh.
My head's too big to really wear them, though. To wear them well, like the knot in the back is like microscopic when I tie it.
Yeah.
But if I go to a concert, like I go to a country concert and they're selling bandanas, first thing I do is buy that bandana and tie it around my head like Willie Nelson.
There you go. I do that with koozies at shows for sure. If you got a koozie up there, I'll grab it for sure.
I think you might have missed the boat by not making this a bandana.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, it was a little bit harebrained, very short turnaround for it because I did want to release something for Christmas. I try and get something out there, but we've been so busy, and I'm training a red tail right now too, that I was like, man, if I don't get something out right now, it's not going to happen. So I kind of had already been messing around with that and just went for it. I would love to do bandanas with it, but I don't know Yeah, I don't know. I didn't actually ask the printers if they could do it. I know they can do bandanas. I just like, again, like trying to go so fast, I didn't have time to like really think everything through with the merch.
So in the future, I think you just need to consult with me when you're doing merch.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess so. I need to be able to spitball a little bit.
Maybe we'll do a Sporting Chance Tiger Stripe bandana
Ooh.
with this
Yeah,
next
dude.
drop that's coming out.
Yeah. I mean, I got a little preview of it, and I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, we might go wild with it.
Yeah, dude.
Some Sporting Chance Zubaz pants. The
Man,
big.
I mean, we had a long conversation about this already in Texas. I think that would be a great idea.
Yeah, I'm
Let's get some
into it.
hammer pants, dude.
Yeah, Sporting Chance hammer pants. Imagine everybody at the field meets at the banquet with fanny packs and hammer pants.
Dude, I mean, that's it right there.
Man, seeing the amount of people since you're on here, we'll just quickly the amount of people who are rocking the collab merch. It's been pretty awesome to see.
Man, I have yes, it is. I've been tagged in a few things, or not just a few, several now, of falconers out there wearing it, like with their birds out there using the gear, which is always, I love to see that. I'm glad that people aren't, trying to be delicate with it. Like, wear it out there when you're hunting, get it torn up, get out there with it. But yeah, it's great to see people out there with the merch on, like doing their thing, slaying. It's awesome.
Yeah.
I
So
hope. I know that you guys have a lot of. I'm wearing one right now. I know that you guys have a lot of merch out there too, and I'm assuming y'all feel the same way about it. It's so humbling to see people. I try and keep up with everybody. Like I try and learn people's names and know who they are, but the community is big enough that like I don't know everybody, and then I'll see somebody out there wearing a devil shirt. I'm just like, I don't. Who are you? I don't even know, and it's awesome to see it.
the craziest thing I've gotten so far was my apprentice and good friend Mike Peltier. I may not be getting his name right. It's a French Canadian name, but Mike was at the airport picking up his daughter, and he was wearing a Sporting Chance hat. And a stranger came up to him and said, "Hey, I listened to that show too." How crazy is that?
Yeah, dude. It weirdly makes it a small world sometimes.
It does, yeah.
Yeah.
So, when does your pre-order end? Because before you tell me that, I want to tell people order early and get it over and done with, because if you miss it, you're going to regret it. It is all of Brett's stuff, with the exception of the always available on his website, is pre-order only. If you missed the pre-order, you missed out on getting it. You're not going to get it. So
Yep.
he's told me this for a long time, and I saw it firsthand with the collab that we did. I probably had a dozen people reach out to me afterwards and say, "Hey man, I missed it. Can I get a shirt? Or can I get a hoodie?" I'm like, "Sorry, bro. Like, they're off to the printers. Like, we do not have any." So
Yeah.
you got to get it in during the pre-order. So when does your pre-order end?
It ends Sunday, December 7th at 10 p.m. Central Time. So 2 week
All right.
window, basically.
Yeah, that's not long at all.
Yeah, and
So
like I said, I feel bad for it, but it also like it. I want to get it out before Christmas, and that's literally the last day, basically. That like I've talked to the printers, and they were like, we're gonna put this on kind of ahead of other projects to make sure that you can get it out hopefully in time. So it's going to be
that's
some moving
nice.
parts for sure.
Nice. You got a good relationship with them.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, folks, we'll get those pre-orders in, and look forward to getting mine in.
Thank y'all so much.
All right. Thanks, Brett. Welcome, everyone, to the Sporting Chance podcast. Today, we are joined by Laura Hazelett. Laura is a falconer, the president of the American Falconry Conservancy, and a raptor breeder, amongst many other things. Welcome to the show, Laura.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome. We're very happy to have you here, and we're honored that you were nice enough to come on the show, because we, sometimes people don't want to, they don't want to associate with us. But that's usually on the other. That's usually on the other side of the aisle. we'll get into that later. But
Okay.
we appreciate.
I'm in the dark on that one.
Well, we've been pretty critical of NAFA on the podcast. We've had NAFA directors on. We're going to have NAFA vice president on soon. We hope the NAFA president will come on. So some of those people have, and none of the people I'm mentioning specifically, but some of those people have been a little defensive over some of the criticism that we've given them. And I'm a NAFA member. Casey's not, so I especially feel like I've got some right to be critical as a member.
Well, I feel that criticism is ammunition to improve or change if need be, and if not, blow it up.
Right. Yeah, if it's not open to criticism, what's the point?
Yeah, that's true. I have been a NAFA member in the past. I'll just say it right out. My grand sponsor, the guy who sponsored me, was sponsored by Hal Webster. And so I loved Hal, and Hal was a great guy, and he was sort of a womanizer in his day, but he was a lot of fun.
Well, we'd love to hear some more about that. What year did you get into falconry?
I've been a falconer a little over 20 years now. I originally got enchanted with it when I was a teenager, actually before regulation. And I tried to get into falconry, and unfortunately I was unable to trap a bird. So that dream of mine kind of went to the back burner as life went on. And then 20 odd years ago, I ended up working with a falconer, Hal's apprentice. And I remember it clearly. We were standing there. I was in tech then. And so we were standing there chatting, and I asked him what time it was. And he looked at his right hand, and I'm like, well, why do you have your watch on your right hand? You're right-handed. You usually wear it on your offhand. He says, well, I'm a falconer. And I guess he saw the blank look on my face. I knew what a falconer was, obviously. I don't think he knew that I knew. But then he said, well, if you got a bird on your fist and you go to look at the time, well, what happens to the bird? So I was like, oh. And then we just kind of kept talking about it. And eventually he became my first sponsor.
What was his name?
His name was Greg Burdick. He has since passed away.
Well, rest in peace, Greg.
Yep, he's a good guy. And so that's how I started.
And how did he get into it, and how did he meet Hal Webster?
I'm really not sure about that. He talked about Hal all the time, and I heard a bunch of stories from him, many of which it's been so long I don't really remember all. But I did get to meet Hal, and I grew up in the same town Hal lived in. So, it was kind of just one of those weird things that happens to people. So, yeah,
very cool.
Pretty cool.
That is funny. That's a message. This is with falconry. The whole small world thing is pretty crazy. It's, it is very crazy. Like, I have a quick story. Literally yesterday, I'm on a job site, and a contractor from another job site needed me to stamp a permit for a project with my plumbing license. His buddy's going with him because they're going to go do a survey job in Newark, New Jersey. And the guy driving the car, just middle-aged guy. And then the contractor loves the fact that I fly birds. So he's like, this kid, my plumber, Casey, he has hawks and stuff. And the driver of the car says, oh, no way. He's like, I'm in Boy Scouts with a guy that does that also from Midland Park. And I'm like, oh, Paul or Phil Aaliyah. And he's like, yeah. He's like, you know them? I was like, I literally lived in Phil's house for like 4 years. Like, you know what I mean? Like the small, like it's such a small, he's like, I see him all the time. We go on fishing trips. It's like, it's such a small world out there, but it's, you know what I mean? Like there's so few of us, but like everyone's like removed a couple degrees from somebody that you know. It's very interesting.
Yeah, that's very true.
In Boy Scouts, wouldn't they?
Say that again, Aaron.
I said those two would be involved in Boy Scouts, wouldn't they?
Yeah, I mean, Boy Scouts is great, man. I think you should. I think everybody should put their kids in Boy Scouts.
You think my daughter should be in Boy Scouts?
No, let's not push it that far. But they should be in Boy Scouts because it's they teach you a lot of stuff. You just got to keep a lock on your tent at night, though.
Maybe your kids can do jujitsu so they can defend themselves from
the bears. The bears.
Yeah, the bears. The dangerous predators. That's it.
There you go.
So, Laura, you've been in falconry about 20 years. I know that you breed exotic falcons, Peruvian Harris hawks. What types of birds have you flown, and what do you fly currently?
I have flown almost everything. I have not flown an eagle. I've not flown a red shoulder, and I've not flown a harrier. But everything else, yes. Some of my favorite birds to fly are sacred falcons. They're really underrated here, but they are hard as nails. They're really incredible athletes, and they can like go forever on just minimal body fat and everything. I mean, the desert falcons just really are pretty incredible in that way. And so we're breeding from Tiercel that I flew for like 8 or 9 years, and then had an opportunity to breed him. And I'm really excited about that. And we've made some really incredible sacred falcon offspring from him, and he has passed his demeanor and everything along to the majority of those birds, I would say. And so they're just, for sacred falcons, they're pretty calm and relaxed birds, easy to man, good size falcons. So they're the bomb. Right now I'm flying a gyrfalcon that we bred here, Jerkin, and I am this year starting to fly a Barbary female. She's just gotten on the wing. She's this year's bird, and so just getting her going. And also I have a passage peregrine that was originally taken on Padre that I'm flying as well.
That's quite the list there.
Yeah.
It's very impressive.
You're in a good long wing spot, I take it?
I am not, but I'm in a good training spot, and I'm very close to good long wing spots. So okay. I'm like 3 hours from the Kansas border, so I can go to Kansas frequently, and I do.
Yeah, I was going to say, because long wingers, when they say they're close to an area to fly, I mean, that could mean 6 hours, you know. Long wingers, I think they're no stranger to traveling to appropriate habitat.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I grew up in Colorado, and even when I was flying red tails, I was flying out on the plains. So unlike a lot of people, I'm flying a Tiercel red tail from the fist for the most part on rabbits. I really never hawked squirrels because we just didn't have them in the tree. We didn't have any trees, so we didn't really have any squirrels. So that's kind of what I grew up doing. And I was always surprised when people say, "Oh, you hawking them from the fist?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, isn't everybody?" So yeah, it was unusual for some people, but yeah, it was a lot of fun.
That does sound like fun. Yeah, red tails are, like we talk about on the show all the time, that they're very underrated. I mean, everybody, like, I think most falconers can appreciate a good red tail, but if you really stop and think about it, like, you can fly them from the fist, you can fly them from a T-perch, from a soar, 1,000 feet above you, it's just like you can do anything. There's, George down in Florida is catching majority of his catches is waterfowl from a T-perch or the glove from the, and he's getting it done like it's nothing. It's just very adaptable, great birds. I did have a question for you about the Barbary, and since you're in the breeding world, you'll probably be able to give me the answer. Is a Barbary considered a peregrine, or is that not the case anymore, or what?
Well, they go back and forth based on the current best knowledge that they have and research and all that stuff. So they have been considered peregrines. They are really from the Barbary Coast and a sort of a non-migratory peregrine, and they're smaller than the typical peregrines, and they do have they can kick it into overdrive. They're just incredibly fast. And but they recently changed them from Pellegrinoides to peregrine cod something. So they're now, if you import them, they are now considered peregrines, and they will go on your MBTA permits. Back in the day, they weren't. So most of the Barbaries I have here that I breed from are not considered MBTA birds because they're older, and they changed that, with CITES. So,
is anyone importing falcons these days into America?
It has been very difficult. CITES kind of started in 75. We signed on to the convention. The U.S. became a party to the convention, and it seems like since then, it was originally a conservation thing, right? And then, as happens in our world, things get influenced by animal rights interests and people who oppose the use of animals and NGOs, and so we see some of that with the Fish and Wildlife Service now, where they're not really managing birds where they're differentiating wild taken versus domestically bred. And so it took me a long time to get to import these Barbaries. Now, I should have been able to import them under a certificate of bred in captivity. And we used to be able to do that here, and most other countries allow for that. But Fish and Wildlife just put their backs up against me. And so eventually I had to find a CITES registered breeder in order to bring the Barbaries in. So
what year did you do that?
I just successfully brought my first Barbaries into the country this year.
Oh, wow.
So the Barbary I'm
what
starting
country
this
did they
year.
come from?
These birds came from Canada, although originally they are from the UK. Canada does not enforce CITES in the same way that the US does. So, they have their own problems, don't get me wrong. Right? There's just, their problems are different than ours. So they say I, have to bring them in for falconry. There's no commercial use, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well,
once they get here, it's your business what happens.
Falconry isn't commercial, but falconry isn't commercial, right? So if I bring them in for falconry, who cares how they are classified in CITES or whatever? But yeah, it's kind of a mess. But I needed the bloodlines. I needed new bloodlines. We need new genetics in this country of a lot of different birds that we've brought in. Lanners, Sakers, Barbaries, Peruvians, both Peruvian Harrises and Peruvian Aplos. So, if we don't get those new bloodlines, those birds will cease to exist, except maybe as some hybrids and eventually, that washes out anyway. So, it's
Right.
it's a problem, and it is one of the things that the AFC has been working on for a number of years. I think, frankly, I personally would like to see the U.S. just bow out of CITES, and then maybe we wouldn't have that problem.
Okay. Well, this is a good transition here to continue on this conversation, but to lean into you as your role as president of the American Falconry Conservancy. Can you tell us a little bit of the history of the organization?
Well, yeah. Way back in the late 90s, I would say, we started having a lot more captive bred birds. And I think there was a certain concern that we would lose wild take because of the availability of captive bred peregrines and stuff like that. So some guys got together, Bill Murr and Rob Solsky and others, probably many others, and started talking about forming a group to support wild take, to make sure that it would, live in perpetuity, and also to open up non-resident take, because there wasn't really so much of that. And a lot of people, like if you wanted a goshawk, you wanted to go to Minnesota, where there was a ton of goshawks and stuff like that. So I think around 2000, those guys started to decide they wanted to create an organization. And in 2002, I believe they incorporated it was called the Wild Raptor Take Conservancy originally. And so they want to just expand our knowledge of raptor migration and trapping, and share and preserve wild take. That was really the original goal of the whole enterprise.
And NAFA existed, so why did the organization start? Did they feel like NAFA wasn't doing what they should be doing?
Well, I'm not here to bash NAFA. I've been a NAFA member. My grand sponsor, helped NAFA come into being. He also helped create the Colorado Hawking Club, which is one of two falconry organizations in that state now. And I think it's always kind of been the hope that we could get beyond some of the personalities and work together, rather than just work on stuff simultaneously, which is kind of what's happening right now. So, there's a lot of background to NAFA as well. One of the differences between our organizations is NAFA allows non-falconers, and we don't. We don't want to dilute our thought processes and our fight for the rights that we're so familiar with keeping and wanting, by having, allowing people whose, their direction is different than our goal. So,
why do you think a non-falconer would want to join a falconry organization?
Well, I think a lot of them believe that conservation is important, and so there's some of that, and then, there's obviously potential for more nefarious goals of people who are non-falconers who join organizations such as ours.
You're speaking Casey's language right now. I just saw his eyes light up.
Well, it happens.
Yeah, they're trying to capture everything, and they've actually been very successful. Pretty much all the game and fish departments, except for Maine, is all captured by like anti-hunting indoctrination from the colleges that they got their degree from. They despise hunting. They don't like falconry, and they get in these positions, and then they basically can wield their power against us and make our lives miserable for no reason. And that's not an understatement. That's just like, that's a fact. I mean, look at New York and most states. You have to do an annual report. You have to explain how many squirrels you caught, how many rabbits you caught, how many days you were in the field. When I buy a hunting license to go shoot rabbits or squirrels with a shotgun for small game hunting, I don't have to fill out this entire survey to keep getting my license every year. It's all draconian and it makes no sense.
So you don't think anyone has to do that for small game with a gun?
Of course not. I can buy a small game hunting license in New York and not have to fill all that out. But if I have a falconry license in New York, I have to fill out this whole entire survey. And if you don't submit it by December 31st, you're subject to have your license revoked. Literally.
God,
literally.
That sucks.
Yeah, it's like, it's so draconian. It makes no sense.
It seems unfair.
It isn't fair. We did a bunch of ESAs and stuff, especially when they wanted to change the federal regs and the feds wanted to get out of the daily management of falconry. And they proved that what we do does not impact the game populations and it doesn't impact the raptor populations. So what the heck, right?
Right.
Doesn't make any sense. And I agree with that.
So I kind of have got the impression about the American Falconry Conservancy that they were, I guess shouldn't say they, because you're right in front of me. So you guys are a little more confrontational, a little more direct, a little more, I don't know if demanding is the right word, of the federal government or state governments that are imposing restrictions on falconry that you guys don't agree with.
Well, I think we have a little more focus because we don't have all these, other groups of conservation and this, that, and the other. We're focused on the rights. So, yeah, we have a couple meets a year, but we don't charge for it. We're mostly like-minded people. We've had them in the same place pretty much every year since I've been a member, which is like 2010, 2013, somewhere in there. I can't recall. But yeah, so,
where are they at?
Well, they're in Kansas. So we have a meet coming up the week of Thanksgiving, the 26th through I think the end of the month. And that's about the last period of time you can really expect to be able to be out there and not have a blizzard show up or whatever like that. And so we like that. And then we have a spring meet because Kansas has an extended falconry season where we're out there, but the gun season has ended. So we get, 10 days of, beautiful hawking with no gun hunters to confront. So it's pretty good. It's not big. It's not like NAFA. It's not like this huge party that takes a lot of planning and stuff. It's just a bunch of friends getting together and going and flying their birds. So it's a little more intimate and you get to know people a little better. And frankly, it's a lot of fun. So I try to go every year.
It does sound fun. I'm just trying to. So where is the funding coming from? Is there a membership fee, and how many members do you guys have?
Yeah, I think we have about somewhere between 80 and 100 members currently. That comes and goes. Most of our money comes from the membership fees that we collect. You buy multiple years, you get a little bit of a discount. But, it's mostly people that really support what we're doing. And so we work hard at what we're doing. We've done a lot of good stuff for falconry and because we're small and we're a small group and we're all pretty like-minded, we can be nimble, we can work fast. We don't have to have permission from giant committees. We meet every month and we have a a board meeting every month, and we work on stuff, and then we go and we put our action items into progress, and then we meet the next month, and all those kinds of things. So, we do a lot of stuff. We've, helped Mexico keep falconry, and it's happened more than once where they've tried to take the ability to own raptors away from the Mexican people. We've worked on the peregrine take. We had a committee. One of our members has been working the last 30 years on eagle take, and he's probably the guy that got us eagle take in the first place. So we really try to keep involved with the stuff that we think is important, and so those are just some samples of the kinds of things we work on.
It's excellent. Do you have legal counsel?
We don't have like Mr. Maynard on staff as NAFA does. We did sue California and the feds, and we have an ongoing suit. It was done in two parts. So we actually sued California for speech, violating our free speech regulations, and the commercial use of falcons for educational purposes. So
free speech. Can you explain the correlation?
So in the regs, it said that you could use your falconry raptors to do education, but they compelled your speech by saying you have to talk about this, you have to talk about conservation, you have to talk about that, and that's not free speech. And then they also said that you couldn't charge for that beyond, recompensing your expenses. So that was part of our suit, and that has come to fruition. We won on that, and so California is going to take out of their regulations the part that says, as long as the raptor is primarily used for falconry, blah, 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 you have to talk about biology, ecology, conservation, migratory birds, and fees charged or pay received cannot exceed, the recovered costs. They're taking that language out of their regs because we won on that one.
Oh, wow. That's a big deal.
It is a big deal.
I'm gonna go to California and give a speech for like 20 G's.
There you go. But and you can use your falconry birds for it. But that's in California. Excuse me. So our legal group that has helped us bring this suit is Pacific Legal Foundation, and so they work really hard on just constitutional rights issues. And so that is a constitutional rights issue. And the other part of that lawsuit is regarding warrantless searches. So that part is ongoing. We haven't won and we haven't lost that yet. But basically, we feel that our standing is that you want us to sign away our constitutional rights every time we get or renew a falconry permit, and we don't believe that is legal, actually. So
yeah, that's because it's not. And like I stated earlier with the annual report in New York, it's completely mindless, makes no sense, and it just adds even more workload to the already pathetically slow governmental system to do their job. And yeah, so that's awesome that you guys won that. Is that the Pacific Legal Foundation, did they take that on pro bono, or did you pay them? How did that work? And was this, not the secondary question, was this stimulated by an incident?
Well, they did take that on pro bono, and so that was really pretty great. And because it involves what their specialty is, and the things that they desire. So they saw our case that we we really did have a leg to stand on, and so that's how that all came about. And in fact, if any other state would be willing to change their regs in such a manner, I'm sure the PLF would be willing to take that on.
I doubt that they would be willing. I think that every state in the country should be. I think you should go after every state in the country to have all that stuff changed.
Yeah, but the falconers in the state have to want that, right? In order to have people to sign onto that suit. So
I mean, a lot of these people, they don't know what they want. You have to kind of show them what they want. They don't know what's good for them. You know what I mean? I was picking up Aaron's bird and Teddy's bird from Tom, and Tom had a really good point. He's like, dude, we gotta create a religion, falconry religion, and literally make it a religion.
That though, being a man of God and all,
bro, I would happily. I'm not gonna say I would happily wear a cloak, and I already got the Friar Tuck hairline. So
yeah, we should ask Mounier what we'll wear. It'll be like wear a cloak and carry like swords on our sides. And
you have to wear a full knight costume or like a Darth Vader outfit, like to every mass that you attend, or like a gathering. But no, and he had a really good point, because like you could start any religion and you have freedom of religion. Why can't you say like, this is my religion to practice this, this ancient, thing, and you can't infringe on my, my worship or whatever, because that's like the only thing that we can do to protect ourselves, because it's really getting a little crazy. And it's kind of like, and we talked about this with Roy, is it Upton or Lupton? Lupton. And he had a really good point. I agree with him. And it's like, we got to start like going on the offensive more. And instead of waiting for them to try to take our rights away and then defending ourselves, why don't we just try to like attack them, for lack of a better word, or litigate them rather, and get our rights, reinstated, or get even more freedoms to practice what we do. I just don't know why that's such an issue. It's like we're waiting for attacks, and this.
I mean, it's bad enough with the warrantless searches that they want to consider falconry this highly regulated industry, which it obviously is not. Highly regulated industries, there's probably 4, 5, 6 of them, alcohol, firearms, explosives, trains, and I can't remember what else right now, but to be highly regulated, you have to have some substantial safety, security, or health concerns, and falconry doesn't have any of that. So there's no need to search us without warrants. I mean, there's just not. If you look at there was a lawsuit, and the guy lost in the lower courts, but finally I think it got to the Supreme Court. It was LA versus Patel. And I think Patel was this hotel owner, and the government came and said, hey, we want you to report to us all the time who's staying at your hotel. And I'm like, so, they kept pounding on this guy, and he's like, no, I'm not going to give you that, just randomly for no cause. And so once he got that to the Supreme Court, he won. But, a lot of things that we would like would probably actually require a lawsuit. Maybe changing some of the eagle take stuff might require a lawsuit. So, I don't know, CITES, it might require a lawsuit too, but I don't got the money for that.
No, I know, me neither. But I just feel like if there's a will, there's a way, because these quote unquote conservation groups that are always litigating nonstop, they are using very well. What is it, Aaron?
They're so happy.
No, that's what I'm saying. They're so happy. They're coming up with the money somewhere, and they're getting people to donate. And I think like we need to start doing that, to find the money somewhere, or find like a young lawyer that's just got time on his hands to just start suing people, because a lot of this stuff is easy. And the whole thing with, like you were saying about highly regulated things, like you listed off firearms as highly regulated, like that right there just is against the Constitution, period. Like there's no reason why the government should be involved in any of that stuff. And I understand the logic behind it, but constitutionally there's no reason for that. You should be able to own whatever you want, and that's it. And same thing with falconry. I should be able to fly whatever bird I want, as long as I am respecting and the population is not in danger. There's no reason why this should be like this crazy thing. 5 eagle permits per year, only coming out of one state. Like, how is that even a thing, and how are we allowing that?
Well, that's because they decided that, eagles were a pestilence in some places. So they were able to create depredation areas and then allow us to trap, I think it's 6 eagles a year. But unless you have 6 falconers every year that are wanting and going and trapping eagles, you're not going to get it increased, because there's just no proof that there's a need, right? So, if you could do that, then yeah, I frankly think that you should go, even if you don't need another peregrine, you should go trap one, just so that those permits don't go away, because we're not using them, right?
Yeah.
And so it is a fight, and it's very complicated. And I'm not even, I'm fairly well versed in a bunch of this stuff, but we have a legal liaison. He helps us with a lot of that stuff. We've had to go to lawyers like Bill Horn and get him to write a letter and prove that, our falcons, our raptors, whether wild taken or captive bred, they're our private property. That's just a fact. We take them from the wild, just like you take a deer or a fish, and that makes it your private property. And so the same thing applies to raptors. Now, that might not be well advertised in certain groups, but it's true.
Yeah, it's a very interesting conversation, and there's a lot of nuance, and there's a lot of rules for different things that don't apply to other things. Like, for example, fur trapping, you can trap fur bearers, you can sell the pelts, you can sell the skulls, no problems at all. If you can sell the meat too, right? Can you sell the meat for fur bearers, Aaron?
Depends.
I mean, I'm paying for muskrat, so I'm either getting ripped off or because I pay for that stuff by the pound. But okay, so but my point is that you can do that, but you can't do that with a white-tailed deer. But a white-tailed deer, you can pay $10,000 to an outfitter to take you hunting so you can shoot one. But you can't give me 2 cents. You can't give me 1 penny to go on a hunt with my goshawk, because that's completely illegal if we're hunting. So it makes no sense. Like, if somebody says, "Hey, I would really love to go on a hunt with you. Can I give you something?" I can't take any money from them. So how can the guy killing whitetails, because it's all about exploiting wildlife. Is the whitetail guy not exploiting wildlife? Is the waterfowl guy down in the marshes, charging these guys $5,000 a pop to go to a blind? Is that not exploiting wildlife? Why can't we take somebody out to see what birds of prey do in their natural habitat, chasing wild quarry?
Well, yeah, I mean, like you're saying, it's complicated. We know that we manage wildlife, and we have to manage wildlife numbers, because we've screwed up the habitat, and we've screwed up the relationships, and so we have to manage it. And how do we do that? We do that through lethal means, right? And there's benefits to that, and you don't see that, the antis or whatever you want to call them. They don't even know about that stuff. We're reducing crop damage, threats of disease, just the whole ecology of hunting. It's like, it's over their heads, and yet we live it every day. I'd rather eat what my bird catches, or what my friend gives me from his deer, which hopefully this year I'll be getting my own deer. And and it's better for you, it's more healthy, it's what humans were meant to eat. Now, don't get me wrong, I like a good cow, that's quite delicious and stuff, but I'll eat that duck that I kill. That's why I hunt with falcons, is to share that with my bird. He can have the head, he can have the parts I don't want, and I'll have the parts I do want. And it's a beautiful relationship, and that's the tradition of falconry. So for me, first and foremost, is sharing the game. That's what I've always done with my birds. Rabbit's delicious, duck is delicious, and so that's why I want to do falconry. And because my dad didn't think hunting was a very feminine thing, he never took me deer hunting. I never got to go. I didn't begrudge it, the going out with the boys fishing or whatever, but I was a better fisherwoman than any of them kids. And I loved it. I would go out with my dad any weekend to go fishing. And so I just grew up that way. So.
Yeah, no, well said. I agree with everything you said. I'm not the best fisherman though, so I can't really agree with you there. That's not my thing. I never catch anything.
We're going to go out. Me and Casey are going to go out fishing for tuna with some of our friends in Rhode Island.
Yeah, I went out to the Farallones on a boat called the Seawolf out of San Francisco Bay right there, and it was a blast. The swell was incredible. I got so seasick, but I caught my limit of rockfish. Damn it!
Oh man, that's
great
cool.
Whites out there. That's a great white hot spot.
Oh yeah, it is huge. I did not see any. We did not catch any. We did not lose any of our fish to any. But yes, it is quite the place if you want to see sharks of a huge nature. And my late husband did scuba. We were going to do scuba. Unfortunately, he was killed in a car wreck. But he tells me this story. He would go out off of Pigeon Point, which is sort of Santa Clara area. There's a big lighthouse there, and he'd scuba around there. And there is you come off the cliffs there, and then there's this deep gorge, and then there's a bunch of rocks out there. The sea lions are out there and everything. And he said he was out there just messing around, and this shadow came across, and he looked, and there was a great white shark. He said it looked like a frickin' school bus. And he quit moving. He was like, I went cold. I couldn't, it was the weirdest shit. You're out there in their element, and the shark just cruised right by him. And he said he never went out scuba in that area again.
That's literally, Laura, I don't know if you know, this is well documented on our show, that's like literally like my biggest fear is like being stranded in the water and there's sharks around me. Like I would commit suicide before I let them kill me. It's so scary to me. It freaks me out.
I was watching the video. Go ahead, Laura.
You won't get killed by a shark if you don't go in the ocean.
Yeah, but like I like to put my feet in, and like apparently they can get you like if you're only in there with your knees. Like I have it's really bad. Like I was never like this. I don't know. It came out like I think after having kids, like I got softer or something because I'm like terrified now. freaks
Well,
me out.
I have been shark fishing, and it's fun. I caught a bunch of leopard shark and some dogfish, and dogfish are about as long as your forearm. So yeah, they could definitely come up and nibble on you too.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Casey, you need to make sure that tea that you're on is legit. It might just be water.
Yeah, I think my doctor's giving me the wrong stuff. I gotta go get my levels checked. No, but even when I'm at peak test levels, dude, like 1,000, like my levels are good, I'm still afraid of sharks. I don't think it has anything to do with tests. Those things are evil.
I was watching this video. It's a long video by the YouTuber named Bob Gimlin, and he was talking about fatal shark attacks. Apparently, there's like some controversy of shark conservation organizations aren't counting accurately the amount of shark fatalities on humans. Is like,
yeah, I think I saw that video. They're hiding it.
Yeah, they're basically hiding it. Big Shark is hiding it from the people. But he talked some incidents of people being killed by, it's always either great whites, bull sharks, or tiger sharks, with an occasional like mako shark. But it's generally those three.
I think out of all those sharks, I'd rather be killed by a mako shark because they're so fast that it would just be like, and I'd just be dead.
Yeah. It seems like you bleed to death from the wound from them. They're not like gonna grab you and rip you to pieces and swallow you. They're gonna bite you and you'll bleed out.
And I'll just go under the water and drown myself before I could. The terror of that whole situation. Speaking of bull sharks, I mean, that's another one that freaks me out. Like literally swimming in a lake freaks me out.
Water.
That's what I'm saying, dude. Because like, what if some crazy person threw one in a lake, dude, and like I'm in there swimming and I get my leg ripped off? There's
a golf course in Australia that has freshwater ponds, and there's bull sharks in it, where somebody either put them in there or they came in with a flood. But then in like Lake Pontchartrain and stuff in Louisiana, they're in those lakes down there.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm going to pass on all that.
There was a dude who was killed diving for abalones. And they like do it with like a big tube that's attached to the boat. So they're not really like scuba diving. They have this hose that's supplying air to them. And his daughter was on the boat, and he was supposed to be back by now. So she jumped in the water, and she was following his hose. And she got down to the end of the hose, and the great white was just kind of cruising around with him in his mouth. Wasn't eating him. It was just like holding it like a dog with a stick. And she slowly swam back to the boat, and eventually they reeled his body in just by pulling on the hose. He was like missing his legs and all types of wild stuff.
Thanks, Aaron. That's great.
You're welcome.
That's great. I see those videos of like the, like they're always trying to like get the Asian people in trouble for like the fins and stuff. Dude, I'm just watching those videos. And I'm like, cut those fins off.
Small feathery meat eaters. Thank you very much.
Exactly. I'm with you, Laura. All right, moving on.
I love sharks. Laura, I wanted to ask you about some specific issues. I harp on this all the time. The eagle take and importing of raptors from other countries. So the eagle take, we've established that 6 people per year in the state of Wyoming get drawn to hopefully trap an eagle. And I don't think all 6 people are typically successful. Do you know that or not? I don't know. That's not facetious.
I don't know, and I don't even know if 6 people apply every year.
I think it's competitive. My understanding is it's competitive as of now.
I think maybe recently it has gotten a little more that way.
Yeah.
And I think for a lot of years there weren't a lot of people that wanted to play with eagles because, there's something different.
Well, all of us know throwing food to a hawk that you're not hunting with or breeding gets old really quick. Agreed?
Well, I don't know. I don't really do. I mean, my breeding project where I do pairs in isolation. I do, feed them through a door. And so that's, because they're in isolation, we want them to have as most of a natural type of environment as we can. So the big falcons have big chambers. They're 16 by 16 and 16 feet high. They have barred roofs and barred windows. They have nesting ledges that I can lay on with room to spare. And they have hundreds of pounds of pea gravel. And I mean, building the chambers themselves was quite the event. And then every year I go in and I pull young from them, and I handle the birds every year, once a year, and do health checks on them. I go in, I clean well, my husband and I both do this because it's a joint effort. But, Missouri is like everything grows here. So we have to go in and weed and get trees out and stuff that are growing in the chambers, and then handle the birds every year. And then a couple times a year, depending on how many clutches we want to do. My husband's older than me, and he has peripheral neuropathy, so he doesn't do the climbing anymore. I do it. So I climb up and I face the bastards that want to rip my eyes out to get their eggs, or to put young back up there, or to ban the birds. And so, I like to do competitive pistol shooting, and it's hard to do when a saker's grabbed the shit out of your hand defending its nest or its eggs, or, so it's really not for the faint of heart. But actually, I preferred going in with the Peruvian Harris's hawks because the hawks are completely different. They just fly away. They let me handle the young. They let me take the eggs. They let me put in fake egg. Whatever I want to do, they're like, okay. And then a few minutes later, after I leave, they happily go back to their nest and continue on.
Well, I'm actually just referring to the cost of feeding birds that you're not doing anything with, not so much the work involved.
I don't have birds I'm not really doing anything with. If they're a breeding pair, they have to be together all year. I mean, they have times where they have raised hormone levels. They do pair bonding. They do all these behaviors that they would do in the wild, just all in a chamber. And we look at them through cameras for the most part. And so we're watching them, checking their health, making sure we see them every day, those kinds of things. So
you could imagine throwing an adult eagle 4 or 5 quail a day or whatever you're feeding them, and not flying it.
Eagles are big, but they have really efficient metabolism. So in the summer,
stop putting holes in my logic here.
You might only feed them every fourth or fifth day, actually. So
interesting.
Yeah.
Everybody needs an eagle, Aaron. Doesn't matter.
Everybody needs an eagle.
I don't know about everybody, but I don't know. I think a lot of people that want an eagle, they probably shouldn't have an eagle. It's not because they're not capable. I just think that there's like, you could just see it from somebody's profile picture holding an eagle. Like they think of themselves as some sort of like elite, like, okay. So like, right. People make fun of goshawkers, right? That we think we're like elitists and like, well, we fly goshawks. We're cool. Like these eagle people, dude, these eagle people are on another level. They're like delusional. Like they think they're like, it's so ridiculous.
Most people don't need an eagle. What about when they have 2 eagles or 3 eagles?
I think if they're breeding them or they're hunting them with success and they're not insufferable, then yeah, all power to you.
So where's the American Falconry Conservancy at on getting broader access to eagles for falconers that want them? Because I think we're on the same page. If you want an eagle and their population's not in serious jeopardy, we should be able to get a wild eagle if you have the falconry license.
Oh yeah, I mean, we are totally up for basically whatever you want to do, as long as it's not endangered or whatever. we're here to fight for that. I mean, we wouldn't be fighting for, non-resident take in different states, Alaska, South Dakota for trapingeers, peregrines, all that stuff. I mean, the broadest liberties possible that aren't in conflict with legitimate conservation efforts and sound biological reasoning, then I think we're good.
Okay. Are there any efforts right now to broaden the access to eagles?
We are not working on that currently. I mean, I'm not really sure that there is a lot to be done right now, but certainly if we feel there is, we would work on it. If a member comes to us and says, "Hey, we think there's this opportunity. Let's investigate," we would.
I think if we're going to get this stuff done, I think we need a little checklist of falconry things we want done. I think the next 3 years is the time to get it done, personally.
Well, I mean, eagles weren't really on our radar right now, but the CITES, the normalization of peregrine take, all those things, yeah, we're on board with that. We just wrote some great letters and helped Missouri finally get a peregrine take. Now, it depends on your state. Every state's different, and so that's the one thing that the feds bowing out of the daily management brought us was every state's different, right? So first of all, your state has to delist peregrines, right? And so that's the first effort. And then you have to have, even if you can only take, tundrous birds on passage, you still have to have a certain breeding population in your state before the flyway, which is now in control of it over the feds, will allow you a take. So Missouri has now a 5-bird take. Kansas recently, I believe, got a take. So, it's spreading. It really is.
I so much appreciate that's being pushed, because I think it's ridiculous that they're not opening that up more. I mean, if you just go to, I could just speak for myself, but if you go to the coast on the East Coast and you go on a beach on a day with the right wind, you'll count 50, 60 peregrines flying over your head. Like, it's not like they're in some, like that, those days are over. Like, they're doing great.
Well, yeah, we get great numbers from the bird banders. In fact, we have a friend who's a bird bander, and he's been doing it for quite some time. In fact, he's pretty experienced. And I was supposed to go to Cape May this year and band birds, and unfortunately, jury duty has kept me from doing that this year, which sucks because I was really looking forward to it, and because of the government issue of not being in session right now, there was a question as to whether that was still going to happen. As far as some of the research that the federal government does, bird banding, the results are pretty phenomenal, and it's a fairly inexpensive program to run. So I personally would like to see them continue it. So in my place, my husband's going.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, Cape May, that's where we go quite often. Can you explain, because it sounds like you're a little more in that world than like myself, why do the bird banders despise falconers?
Well, I think maybe some of it is jealousy, because we get to work with these birds all year, and part of it is this idea that the birds are special and they're noble and, all that. And I'm like, no, they're no more special or noble than any of our other wildlife. We got plenty of great wildlife in this country, and I don't find any of it, more important than any of the rest. Yes, falcons and hawks are the top of the food chain between them and amphibians, if you have a problem in your environment, you're going to see it in those species first. But that doesn't make them noble. So, yeah, I think that might be part of it.
Yeah, just jealousy. Yeah, because speaking of Cape May, I mean, we've had I'm not even exaggerating. I'm hesitant to even say this, but we had a falconer go down to Cape May to trap, and this was before the construction down there. They ripped that place apart, and it's just crazy because it's like, conservation, the dunes, this and that, and then they go in there with bulldozers because the bird watching industry is so big down there, the hotels, the restaurants, that they literally like bulldoze this whole like beach area to put in like these walkways so that birders can go and all these lookouts. And we had there's multiple trapping locations there. And they like basically were like saying that, well, now that we're putting these areas in for the birders, you're no longer allowed to trap in there. And then we went with the state, our club in Jersey, we went back and forth with them quite a bit. And I think now they gave us I think actually maybe it gave us the old banding location where the banders used to set up. They had like a brick and mortar, actual like awesome blind with like a full-time pigeon loft in it. It was pretty sweet. And I think we may have gotten our hands on that. I'm not 100% sure on that. But we had years ago, before all that construction, we had a bander or a group of banders and a couple falconers down there get into like a tussle argument, and they both went their separate ways. And when this falconer came out at the end of the evening, all his tires in his truck were slashed.
Well, that's unfortunate.
So I'm just saying, we're not doing that to bird.
Cool.
No, it's not very nice, man. These banders it's the banders, it's the rehabbers, and the bird watchers. The bird watchers can just, I'm not worried about them, but it's like they
can watch me fly my bird and kill rabbits.
Yeah, they could watch from a distance with their binoculars. I'm good with that. But it's interesting. It's interesting. And there's guys and gals and like yourself that are friends with banders, and we're trying to like let them know about this stuff. And Laura from New York, she's a vet. She's very involved in the rehab world, and she tries to share the good news of, falconry, and people see it firsthand with her and the way she deals with their birds. And so we're trying, but it just seems like there's like this culture of hate towards us from these little subcultures.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've been there. I've volunteered at a rehab place, and the owner, she's like, "Oh, great, come on down. You can really help us with this, that, and the other." And then her right-hand woman is like, "Oh, well, you have to do this and this and this first, and blah, 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 improve yourself." And I'm like, yeah, okay. So, I'm just like, it's just, I think they have a certain amount of control. They don't want to give up. And they're afraid that they don't know as much as you. I mean,
there's no need to fear because it's just a fact.
Oh, I know. I mean, I'm not a raptor vet, but I play one on TV. No, seriously, I've learned a lot breeding, doing abatement, just being around birds 24/7. You can't help but learn stuff. And so the things I've learned over the years by doing all these different activities just helps me. I mean, seriously helps me be a better falconer. What I learned from abatement about motivating birds was just astronomical. I don't do it on a daily basis anymore. I do more consulting and stuff like that. But yeah, I learned a ton from that. So yeah, I was able to try and get some stuff out of birds, and I had to look at the birds. I had to look at myself really through their eyes and try and figure out what they see, what I'm doing, and how can I change what I'm doing so that they can more easily understand what I desire from them. So, I mean, everything you do with birds just makes you better, In the breeding project one day, I kept thinking I was hearing one of the Harris hawks, and they make that croaking call or whatever, and I'm like, but I just never saw it. And then I realized it's coming from a different chamber, so I look on the cameras and I can't find one of the birds. And so I'm like, okay, so I have to go in there. And I go in there and there's a bird. She's on the ground, which isn't terribly unusual. Birds sometimes are on the ground, not often, but occasionally. And so I kind of walked toward her, and she didn't just fly up to a high perch like normally she would. And so I was like, well, that's weird. And so I just took my sweater and I tossed it over her, and I felt her keel, and she was skin and bones. She was like on death's door. And so I'm like, holy crap. So, I'm like, okay, so the biggest symptom was that was her croaking. That was her making this croaking noise. Well, it turned out to be a certain disease that is treatable. And so I was able to treat it. But I had never had a bird. I had never heard that symptom before. And I'm just like, so, I ended up having to also have to learn how to force feed a bird through that bird, and just so all the different things that you learn just by doing stuff with raptors every day, you just grow and grow. And I know that no matter what I know, there is so much more that you can't possibly know it all in one lifetime. I hope if I ever come back, I come back as a falconer. So
I agree. I've said that on the show many times. Falconry is not it's not an endeavor you can ever really master. It's always right out of your grip, because there's so many facets to it that it's very difficult to master it. And that's a great point that you bring up. The abatement people, and we kind of like, they have like a stigma sometimes. It's like, it's not real falconry. It's not this. I mean, these guys, they're out there in the summer in sketchy conditions, flying birds like 12 hours a day. Like, you really kind of have to you got to narrow in your skills to really deal with that. But I will say the breeders too. Just the simple concept of casting a bird to do equipment. When is your average falconer casting a bird to do equipment? Once a year, maybe every other year. These people like yourself and my buddy Tom, you're casting like 50 birds a year, getting them ready to, so everything's like muscle memory, the way you do. It's like you really get very good at identifying, number one, like you said, issues, and then just dealing with the issues. You just get it down to a science, more than just your average falconer. So breeders are underrated, and we appreciate you 100%.
Well, it's a labor of love. Unless you're selling to the Arabs, you're not making a boatload of money. If I make enough, if we make enough to pay for the food we put through our birds, and then we're happy, And the other thing is a couple things that I never thought I'd do is fly a bird I bred for myself, and be able to create partnerships with people and birds, is just really cool. I don't think my legacy is what I'm doing for the AFC. It's not being a falconer. It's that I'm bringing other falconers into the fold. So my legacy is the people I sponsor, my apprentices, and the ones who really kind of I'm proud of, right? So, like I recently, she is now 16 and a general falconer, but I sponsored this young lady who, when I met her, was 11 years old. And she was ready to pass the test then. And she was just tick-tock counting off the days until she could go take that test when she turned 12. And so she's been a falconer. She's handled a lot of birds for us. She's helped us, imprint falcons, and just the variety of stuff that she's been able to do is pretty cool. And so if she becomes a good falconer, which she's already good, if she becomes like a really great falconer, then that's my legacy. And hopefully she passes that on to others, because that's the other tradition of falconry that's so cool, is it's passed down generation to generation. So
my legacy is Mike and Lee Casey. It's not very good.
Aaron passes down the legacy of falconry to anybody that knocks on his front door. I think he tried to sign papers for the mailman a couple of times to sponsor
I
him.
was begging him. I said, please become a falconer, please.
No, but Aaron's hard on his apprentices, but he's proud of them, right, Aaron?
Right.
So
Right.
Casey, you fly goshawks?
I try to, yeah, to the best of my ability.
And Aaron,
That's
what are you
debatable.
flying?
I like to fly goshawks, but I can't keep them alive. So
Well, they're tough. They're tough. I mean, my late husband was a goshawk guy. He thought the best goshawk was a North American fin cross because that kind of gave him the best of both worlds. And he flew several of those over the years. And there's some amazing birds. They really are. Do you fly with dogs? Either you fly with dogs?
Oh yeah, we both run dogs. That's what the fin albitus, not the fin albitus, excuse me. The North American fin was the hybrid, like that was all the rage back in the day. And nowadays, because I didn't even know that. I heard about that was like everybody wanted that. That was like the thing. And now the rage is the 50-50 Siberian Finnish bird. That's like everyone wants that now, and they're also a really good hybrid. But anything with North American is going to be a little bit more high strung and a little more difficult to deal with. So
they're not really hybrids. They're all goshawks, right?
Right. Yes.
So really that makes them intergrades.
right.
That's the biological term for that.
Quite the intergrade between Finland and North America.
I would, and listen, I was at Tom's house today playing with Peruvians and Sonorans, and he was describing the personalities and the way they are, and I said, well, it's kind of sounds to me like it's the difference between a Finnish goshawk and a North American goshawk. They're both goshawks, but one is just a little bit more loose, a little more gamey, snappy, maneuverable, and the other one's bigger, calmer, more aggressive. Is that your assessment of Peruvians? Because there's not many people that breed Peruvians, and they are an excellent. I hear nothing but good things about Peruvian Harris-hawk.
Well, I think currently in the U.S., here at Midwest Iries, we are now the only breeders of pure Peruvian Harris's hawks. They're the dominant subspecies. So while they're Harris hawks, they're also quite a bit different than the subspecies that have come to southern North America, and they are. I call them more fast twitch. They're not necessarily more nervous. They just react fast like an accipiter, and so they have that a little more balance between feather and fur. They definitely will go for the feather. When I flew my little guy, I was flying him on quail and small birds. So I mean, and they'll still catch a rabbit. He could catch a cottontail. A female could catch a rabbit. But basically, if something runs away from them or flies away from them, they chase. And they're super fast. So they're not like a family of wolves as the North Americans are. They're going to be more solo flyers. They're not necessarily as cooperative when they're down together, like if you're flying a pair on something that they caught. So it's a little different in that regard. So I like flying them solo. You do see some of the guys in Peru flying them in casts, but I don't know really how successful they are with that.
So it kind of sounds like it's a Harris-hawk that actually requires some level of skill to fly successfully.
They think like Harris-hawks, but they don't. I mean, they're harder to man. I'm pulling them a lot younger because they don't need that long time in the chamber, that social aspect of learning to be a Harris-hawk, communicating with Harris-hawks, doing the postures and all that stuff. there's a lot less of that required. And so like they can be a little bit vocal, but they're not, I've not had any screamers. They communicate a little bit with you, but nothing obnoxious. So we pull them, typically the best is 10 to 12 weeks. If you let them go later than that, it's a long road to manning, and a lot of people have not been successful with that.
So there's, all right, I'm sorry, Aaron, I have to ask this question. So you've had people that have not been successful manning a Harris hawk?
Yeah, because if you can't get them to eat, then you can't get them to live. So even more than food, I think what humans, a lot of them don't realize when they're manning a new bird that is more nervous and stuff, that even if you can't get it to eat, it has to have water. And so if you're not giving it water, then it's going to croak on you. So
yeah, it's just I feel like my blood pressure, and I want to like go off on like a tangent, like a rage right now. I just think with certain birds, like if you get a Peruvian, it's not the bird that you want to man down in the living room with 50 people and the TV on the first day in broad daylight. You'd probably want to treat it more like an accipiter or a red tail and kind of take it slow, let it kind of develop. I mean, there's
do low light manning, TV or whatever, maybe light on in another room. But I've got dogs, I've got other birds, I've got, husband and people around. And I don't think that necessarily is bad for them. I mean, a ton of activity might throw them, but, your normal household is probably not the worst thing in the world.
I just, for me, like, maybe it's just I'm on the camp, like the Steve Lehman. We had Mike Radford on the show talking about trauma in detail. And I'm kind of more on the side that like start slow and then work in the stimulus as you man down and let it creep in. And it seems like, I don't know if this is right or wrong. Listen, there's many different ways to skin a cat. Can you trap a red tail off the trap, stand in your front yard with it tethered to your glove, and eventually it'll be a good bird? Yes. I just think you could probably get more out of it being a little slower and giving it a little more space, starting with low light. I mean, the whole thing in those the old school books, candlelight, quiet, dark, calm. Like, I like that aspect of it than just right off the trap in your living room, terrified. Like, it'll work, obviously, but I don't like it. I think there's no harm in doing it slower.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've always done a kind of a kindler, gentler method of manning as well. And so you don't have your bird going in a week. You have your bird going in 2 weeks or 4 weeks. But with certain birds, like if you're doing small birds, merlins, stuff like that, it's going to take me a month, because small birds have this different sort of attitude and they have a higher level of fear. So you really gotta to get past that with a good foundation, and in order to fly them and do justice to them.
100%. Very well said. Yeah, very well said. I always start when I flew merlins. I was always slow with the merlins. The only thing that's really nice though about like smaller birds is that they want to eat. Like, oh yeah. It's like, like a red tail will not eat for 5 days or 4 days. A merlin, like, they're usually eating like the same night. You bring them home, you're in a quiet room, and you got a sparrow carcass on your glove. Like, they could be terrified, but they're going to bend down and start plucking it or eating it because they just can't help themselves. And I love that about them, because they're like, I got to eat. Aaron's going to find out.
How about imprinting a Peruvian?
I don't know of anyone who has. I think
Let's do it. I'm gonna do it this year. Experiment. Give me a Tiercel. I'll imprint him.
Go for it. I'd like to see the results of that. It'd be interesting, for sure.
I'll do it. That's it. I said it here on air. If I get a Peruvian from you this year, which I'm on the list, right?
Yes, you are.
I want a Tiercel. I'm gonna imprint him.
Okay.
I heard they're like $3,000. Aaron, are you sure about that?
She's giving me a special deal, $2,000.
Only
We do not
2,000.
charge that much for them, but it's not because they're really special or anything. Although I kind of think they're pretty neat little birds and they're a lot of fun. It's just that they're rare. So there's another bird that I would like to see fresh genetics come into the country, or you will only see either no Peruvians at all or half Peruvian, half North American. And that some of them are okay, but some of them aren't. I mean, they're that whole two different birds, family oriented and not family oriented. Some of them, it just whacks them out a little bit. Well,
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, Casey.
What? Yeah.
Laura said. So, have you ever talked to Jim Nelson, the guy who he was one of the guys who imported Peruvian apple mattos back in the day?
I have not.
I have his contact if you ever want to talk to him, but his wife is from Peru. He has family that are Peruvian American, and he has connections in Peru. And I had floated that to him about importing Peruvian Harris hawks at one time, and he seemed to think that it was doable based on his connections and all there in Peru. But he did say not every Peruvian Harris hawk is small.
Well, that's probably true because, not every bird of any species is the same size. I mean, I've had people say, I'm pretty sure that when I send a bird out to someone of a certain sex, it is that sex because I've done DNA testing on it. And so they tell me, well, I think that was actually the other opposite sex or whatever. I'm like, okay, well, you go send in a sample, feathers, blood, whatever, and you come to me with the results of that says it's not, and we'll talk. Because I want you to have what you thought you were getting. But, so far, no one's ever been able to make that case.
I bought a goshawk chick one time, female finish, and paid female finish prices. Imprinted her, raised her up, and she stopped growing at 800 grams.
Yeah, she flew at 650 grams. She was the smallest.
800 grams hog fat, my little female finish. And I thought to myself, seems a little small for a female. So I sent in the
finish.
I sent the DNA in, and it turns out she was a he. Mm-hmm. Go figure, huh?
Mm-hmm. Well, I bought what I thought was a certain sex of saker based on its size. Thought it was a male, and from the get-go, there was something not quite right about the bird. And so then I started, when it muted, there was so much liquid in the mutes. It was insane. And so when I finally started seeing the urates were green, I'm like, oh crap, this bird has malaria. So the bird did have malaria. And within like a month of me purchasing her, it died. And so I had a necropsy. And the first thing on your necropsy report is the sex of the bird. And said the bird is female. But when we weighed it weighed out like a tiercel because it probably had malaria since it was a downy chick and just never properly developed. And so that, that's the risk you sometimes take buying a bird. So, that was that. I didn't have a tiercel and I didn't have a bird. So
that's unfortunate. The whole thing with those birds, the way they fly is very unique, right? How are you hunting them?
Peruvian Harrises?
Oh, I'm sorry. I meant the Saker falcons because I did want to touch on that with you a little bit because that's they're a unique bird. They fly a little bit differently. They're not like a Jeer. They're not like a peregrine. They're a little more I don't want to say this, and I don't want it to sound disrespectful, and I've heard somebody else describe it this way. It's more butterfly-like.
Well, I will admit that sakers are big, strong birds, and they can do a certain amount of hovering. However, my tercel that I flew would routinely go up out of sight. And so with him, I developed a theory, and that theory is birds take pitch if you give them the time and opportunity. But, most people, they're out, they've got a wife or a husband at home, they need to go make dinner or have dinner or put the kids to bed or whatever it is, and so they put the bird on their time instead of putting themselves on the bird time. And I think you have much better results if you can do it the opposite way, which makes it convenient to have a spouse who is also a falconer or who does not begrudge you the time that you take. And when they know to quit asking you when you'll be home, you got it made.
Yeah, start threatening to burn your muse down if you're 10 minutes late, and you look on the security camera, she's throwing your stuff out in the driveway. Some people have, some guys have to deal with that, spouses that don't understand.
You as it.
It never happened to me. No, never happened to me. Just a story that I heard from somebody one time somewhere.
No, I have heard that the divorce rate amongst falconers is a little bit higher than average. But on the other hand, it's not like I'm going to ask my husband to stop doing something I know that he loves. I'm like, he comes home with a new bird. Hey, great, welcome, new bird. Let's build a spot if we don't have one, that kind of thing.
That's right. I like that.
I adopted 2 cockatiels now. One used to be mine in another life, who is now he's 25 years old. And I got asked, hey, do you want to take this bird back? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And I didn't ask him. I just did it, and he was good with it. And the opposite holds true. So, I'm just like, well, my last bird dog died. I need a bird dog. So I'm like, okay. So I waited a long time. He's like, oh, you're getting this dog? And I'm like, yeah, I kind of decided I would get this dog. And he's like, cool, what took you so long? So yeah.
That's nice.
You gotta have support. It's helpful.
Is there any type of competition though between you two? Like when, if you're flying hard and you want to go and he wants to go, and it's like, you stay home. No, yeah, or like something comes up like that. Like, does that ever become a problem, or is that just like a myth?
Well, here's how we mostly work it. I get to go have fun, and he gets to stay home with the breeding project. So I'll be at the AFC meet, and he'll be home with the breeding project. Now, if he can, he'll come out. He'll bring his bird. He'll come out a day or whatever he can do. But, when you raise animals, they got to eat every day. And so because of our differences, one in age and 2, the breeding project is really his baby. I help with it. I hold the permit for it. It's a joint effort. I've learned a lot. And but breeding birds has always been his life. He's bred every kind of bird you can ever imagine. Emus and parrots and pheasants and peacocks. And I can't even imagine. He's bred just about everything. He has been in falconry for 60 years. His first bird was a goshawk he ordered out of the back of a magazine. So that's how
I got that one, by the way, ordered out of the back of a magazine.
The one that was sex wrong?
Yeah.
No doubt.
When you called the number back, it just went straight to voicemail. I was like, this number is no longer in service.
Exactly. 60 years. That's impressive. That's crazy.
Yeah. And so a lot of the falconers that I know that he's friends with and that I've met over the years, they're the old cadre, they've been at it for a long time. They've forgotten more than I'll ever know, and I think together we make a pretty good team. Because I've done some stuff that he hasn't, because I've done the abatement. I've lived out west and flown the long wings on the prairie and all that kind of stuff. And he's lived in Missouri all his life. So, it doesn't say that he didn't go, make trips to the west and all that, because he did. And but right now, this was his baby, and I just support him. And so right now I'm basically in our incubation room. You can't see them because they're on the other side of the computer, but I've got the incubators in front of me. They're all turned off right now, and so next few months they'll be starting to crank up again, and we'll just go through it again.
So that is so neat.
Very cool.
Very cool. Yes. No, thank you for sharing that. That was great.
Yeah.
Laura, we wanted to end it on give you the opportunity to plug the American Falconry Conservancy. How can people join? You guys are selective, so what are you looking for? What do you guys need?
Well, we're looking for members who believe that they have rights as falconers and they want to preserve them, and they want the most lenient regulations that they can get that still support science. And so that's the kind of people we're looking for. Certainly we'd love to have some of the young people to bring up in the tradition of fighting for our rights, and so that's good. You simply go to our website and fill out the form and pay there. You can do PayPal because, yes, we're in the 20th century, so we do some computer stuff. It's falconryconservancy.org, and that's pretty easy.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on. We appreciate your time.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you very much.
It's interesting to get a different perspective from, this country is so NAFA dominated, it feels like, as far as falconry is concerned. And it's not the only game in town.
No, it's not. And, definitely come to our website, check out some of our accomplishments, and decide for yourself. We have plenty of members that are both NAFA and AFC members. We don't have a problem with that. We won't blackball you because you're a NAFA person. We think you should do what you think you should do. So
it sounds like you guys maybe are a little open to membership feedback about the direction that members want to go with pursuing regulations, changes in regs, things like that, and then versus NAFA.
I think you don't even have to be a member. Frankly, I've gotten phone calls like when the USDA wanted to regulate falconry. I started getting a lot of phone calls, especially right after that, with people who wanted to know how to interpret those regulations. What did it mean to them? And not just falconers, but people who make their living with raptors, who are also falconers for the most part. How did those regulations affect them in education or abatement or what have you? And so we helped a lot of people that weren't necessarily members. And so, if you have something and you're not a member, we don't care. We have all our emails on the website, and you're welcome to contact anyone on the board you feel comfortable with and bring your issue to us, and we'll look into it. We'll take a look at it and see if it's something that, can be worked on and be affected in any way.
I love it. I love the attitude towards the general falconry public as a whole, and the willingness to be helpful. And I don't want to say too much because we're having some NAFA leadership come on tomorrow, And so I don't want to say too much that's not true. We're going to clarify all that tomorrow, hopefully. But just based off of what I've seen personally, it's kind of just, it just seems like the way you described your organization, just to put it clearly for everybody, what I feel is that you are what NAFA is without the fluff.
A stripped down version, yes.
Yeah, straight down to the point, getting stuff done. And that and what you described earlier in the show about what you guys did in California, I mean, that is huge. Like, I don't know how much memberships are, but you could take my money because that's incredible. And if you could do that in other states, that's a huge step in the right direction. And that's it's pretty epic. So now like I'm going to move there and I'm going to charge $20,000 to do a speech at a school.
Oh, there you go.
So
good luck to you.
California.
We all going to be eating. It's good.
Well, you do have to live in California. Believe me, I've been there, done that, and I don't live there anymore. And there's a reason for that. But yeah, I mean, we don't care about your politics. You can be liberal or Democrat or Republican or conservative or anything in between, as long as you feel that falconers have constitutional rights and you have rights to pursue this really, I mean, it's such a benign endeavor. I mean, I don't know why it has to be so overregulated, but, you look at the book of regulations has grown exponentially over the years. It's almost impossible to stay legal, and we'd like to see that go away.
And that's something that I brought up to Tyler Rankin, who's a great dude. He's the Southeast director of NAFA. Is that NAFA has been around as long as NAFA's been around, falconry has gotten harder to do.
It's gotten more regulated, certainly.
It's not lying.
Tell me when I'm telling lies.
He ain't lying.
So, all right, we could go round and round all night, but thank you again, Laura.
It was my pleasure. I appreciate the invite.
Thank you again for your time.